When I grew up and met him again, I was pulled right in front of him. This is Ruru, do you remember her? Guilin lightly curved his lips, his tone tinged with a hint of mockery. How could I forget my wife? My face immediately turned red, feeling a bit embarrassed. I never expected he would still remember the words that Aunt Shu had brainwashed him with when we were little. When we were kids, my mother loved to take me to Aunt Shu's house. Then, she would leave me with Guilin while she went out with Aunt Shu to get massages and manicures. This was because my father and Uncle Gui were best friends. Back in school, Uncle Gui had a conflict with a boy from the class next door. My father stepped in to help. As a result, both of them were called into the principal's office to write self-criticisms. From then on, they became sworn brothers, and their bond was incredibly strong. The friendship between men is sometimes just that simple. After graduation, they started a business together. When Uncle Gui got married, my father even acted as his best man. My father married later in life, and he always carried the regret that Uncle Gui couldn't be his best man. It was because of their friendship that my mother and Aunt Shu became as close as sisters. The two families even planned to have sons around the same time so that my father's son could marry first, which would help make up for his regret. For the first time, I understood the saying of father's debt is repaid by his son in this way. But the timing was off. When Guilin was born, my mother hadn't made any moves yet. It wasn't until Guilin was 3 that I was born. The plan for the best man was completely shattered. To this day, my father still doesn't know where his son is. But when he found out it was a daughter, both families were overjoyed, especially my father, who rushed to Uncle Gui to boast. Well, what do you think? I have a daughter, but you don't, right? Gui Yuqing just smiled calmly, stood tall, patted my father on the shoulder, and said calmly, "Then I'll wait for your daughter to marry my son." Mr. Lin, it seems like you've forgotten that your daughter will eventually have to come to my house too. My father's face immediately darkened, and his smile stiffened. This was something I only heard about later when they were reminiscing about the past. Since our two families often visited each other, my mother and Aunt Shu took care of us together. But in the end, the responsibility of looking after me was entrusted entirely to Guilin. Since I can remember, Guilin has always been by my side. I would often run after him. When he started primary school and had homework, while I was still in kindergarten and had no idea what homework was, I would cling to him all the time. My mother was worried that I would interfere with his studies and wanted to pull me away, but I refused, even throwing tantrums and crying. At this point, Aunt Shu would always speak up. "It's fine, just let her stay here, it won't affect anything." Seeing my mother still hesitating, Aunt Shu turned to ask Guilin, who was doing his homework. "Lin, do you think that's okay?" "Yeah." Hearing his response, my mother and Aunt Shu finally relaxed. As I got a little older, he began to find me annoying, so I would widen my innocent eyes and coquettishly call out, "Brother Ling." He always sighed reluctantly, but over time, he got used to my constant interruptions. He quickly finished his homework and played with me, but he was very disciplined. Every time we played for a while, he would turn to read a book, while I, on the other hand, would get so caught up in play that I forgot to eat. No matter how much my mother and Aunt Shu advised, it was useless. I always found all sorts of excuses to avoid it. It wasn't until Guilin said one sentence, "Eat first, then we can play," in a tone that wasn't strict but had a strange kind of pressure, that I immediately obediently went to eat. Aunt Shu and my mother exchanged a glance and smiled knowingly. During dinner, Aunt Shu watched Guilin picking vegetables for me and said with a smile, "Ru, you're so obedient to him like that, you should marry him when you grow up." Guilin looked up briefly at me, then answered indifferently, "No need." Aunt Shu remained unfazed and continued. You're still young, it's fine if you don't need it now, but later on, if you want, you can. Guilin silently glanced at me, who was eating with an oily mouth, then quietly took a tissue and wiped my mouth. Time passed quickly, and Guilin entered middle school. People say that boys are good at natural sciences, and girls are good at social studies. I was exactly like that, struggling with severe academic imbalances before even graduating from elementary school. But why didn't Guilin have any of these issues? He excelled at everything. My mother always reminded him to tutor me. If you don't do well in elementary school, you'll have even more trouble catching up in middle school. Aunt Shu also agreed. Every time she urged Guilin to come to my house to tutor me, she would repeat one sentence. Take good care of your future daughter-in-law. I know, Mom. At first, he wanted to argue, but later, he became too lazy to oppose. So, every day, after coming home, he would come over to tutor me before going back to do his own homework. When I was young, I thought Guilin was handsome, and as I grew up, he became even more attractive. But in the face of mathematics, no matter how handsome, it was useless. Listening to the lecture was so boring, and the math book was less comfortable than a pillow. I resolutely rested my head on his arm. Lin Ziru's voice was low and indifferent. You rarely call me by my full name. I immediately sat up straight, snapped out of my daze, and smiled foolishly before continuing to listen to the lecture. Thanks to Guilin's tutoring, I had improved quite a bit over the years. The high school entrance exam was approaching, and Guilin was also preparing for his own exams. The final stretch was a tense time for studies, but he still helped me review regularly. A week before the exams, while he was teaching, I noticed he seemed a bit distracted. Thinking it was the pressure from his upcoming exams, I said, Take it easy this last week, you don't have to come over anymore. He paused, patted my head, and forced a smile. All right, but you must study on your own and not be lazy. I beamed with a bright smile. I won't be lazy, I promise. I thought just 1 week apart wouldn't be too bad, and we would meet again after the exams. Who would have known that would be the last time we saw each other? After the exam, as soon as I got home, I didn't even hear my mother speak before I rushed over to his house. Normally at this time, I wouldn't even need to knock because Aunt Shu would open the door, knowing I was coming. But today, no one answered, no matter how much I knocked. Aunt Shu, Brother Ling, I called out. Even Uncle, who was rarely home, I called, but still, no one responded. I held on to a small hope that maybe they had gone out and just hadn't returned yet. My parents must have been behind me for some time, though I didn't notice. Uncle Gui moved the whole family to City A, my mother said. What about Brother Ling? I asked. He has to study for high school there too. Uncle Gui got a job there, and they needed to move for convenience, so both of them went with him. I still couldn't accept it, and asked again, why didn't Brother Ling say anything to me? My mother patiently explained, maybe the boy is afraid of making you sad, and doesn't know how to start the conversation. When I got home, I locked my room door, unable to hold back the tears that fell. The brother who had always been by my side since I was little had suddenly disappeared. The sense of loss and emptiness was unavoidable. At that time, I was still young and simply thought of it as the natural dependence of a younger sister on her older brother. But when I entered middle school, the age when emotions start to stir, I realized that Guilin in my heart was different from everyone else. 3 years have passed. Now, he must have grown up, right? High school, the innocent years of youth, even though the pressure of studies is intense, it cannot stop the stirrings of young hearts. Watching those around me start discussing the boys they like, I felt like I was out of place. When someone asked me what type of boy I liked, I would always smile and shake my head. I have to focus on my studies right now, but deep inside, there was already someone in my heart. The summer after the college entrance exam, I received my acceptance letter from the university. Ah! My parents were overjoyed. My mother immediately grabbed her phone and called someone, speaking excitedly and gesturing animatedly. This time, it really exceeded expectations, because I knew that in this school there was someone I wanted to meet. My efforts had finally paid off, all the sleepless nights and hard work were not in vain. Finally, I could meet the person I had been missing day and night. It had been so long since we last met, I wondered if he still remembered me, and I wasn't sure what to say when we met again. As I was lost in my thoughts, my mother finished her phone call and dragged my father over to stand in front of me. She looked at me seriously. What if our family just moves to City A? What? I hadn't even processed it, my face full of confusion. My father also spoke up in agreement. I agree. What's going on? I'm just going to school. Why does the whole family have to move? Doesn't Dad need his company anymore? This seems excessive. University is only 4 years. Once I graduate, I'll come back. Is it really necessary to move? My mother sighed and took my hand. This is your first time away from home for such a long time. Your father and I are just worried. I held her hand in return. I'm grown up now, the school has dorms, there's nothing to worry about. Seeing my mother remain silent, I hurried to say a few more words to reassure her. Besides, To also lives in City A. If anything happens, I can always contact her. As soon as I said that, my parents stood up in unison. We were just waiting for you to say that. Huh? To already discussed it with me. She said you could stay at their house. It's close to the school, and it would be easier for her to take care of you. That way, your father and I would feel more at ease. At first, I was worried that my child wouldn't agree, but now it seems there's no need to worry anymore. I was stunned. Turns out, it was all just a test of my feelings. There was no plan to move, no need to worry, it was all just to gauge my reaction. Truly, they're my real parents. If they didn't aim for an Oscar with this performance, it would be a real shame. Even before the school year began, exactly 2 weeks before the first day, my mother had already started packing my things. Mom, what are you doing? Why are you so eager to kick me out of the house? Without looking up, my mom continued to swiftly arrange my things. Go a little earlier, check out the surroundings first. It'll be less chaotic when school actually starts. Mom, I'm 18 now. I replied. With a serious tone, she said. It's been so long since you last saw him. Don't you want to see Brother Ling of yours again? My face turned bright red. Mom, what are you talking about? Sweetie, you're all grown up now. You're not a kid anymore, you should at least get to know each other again. Why didn't I think of this? This was indeed a great opportunity. No one understands me better than my mom. She truly is the best. I grabbed the clothes from her hands. Leave it, I'll do it myself. I'd never packed my things so quickly before. My mom watched me, smiling with a knowing look. Now I understand, there is no such thing as a lazy person in this world, just people who lack motivation. Everything is ready. I turned my head to look at my mother, who was leisurely leaning against the door, eating an apple while observing me. She had completely dispelled the last bit of attachment I had to this house. Then, my parents saw me off to the airport, giving me a few simple instructions. With a mix of nervousness and anticipation, I began a new journey. I don't know when it happened, but I had arrived in City A. I started walking, looking around, and then saw Uncle Gui and Aunt Shu waiting for me at the airport entrance. I waved to them. Aunt Shu saw me and immediately ran over. Finally, she had caught me. She joyfully hugged me and held my hand, chatting for a few moments. Your daughter is becoming more and more beautiful, truly a young lady now. Lin, do you agree? Aunt Shu turned back to speak to the person behind her. It turns out he had come as well. Just now, I was so taken aback by Aunt Shu's enthusiasm that I hadn't noticed Gui Lin standing behind Uncle Gui. Before he could speak, Aunt Shu continued. You two haven't seen each other in a long time, right? Yes, it's been 6 years. Aunt Shu said, then pulled me in front of Gui Lin. This is Ru, do you remember her? I slightly looked up, my gaze meeting Gui Lin's. I was so nervous that I couldn't speak. On the outside, I seemed calm, but inside, I was in turmoil. The moment he saw me, Gui Lin's gaze paused for a moment, then the corners of his mouth lifted slightly, carrying a teasing smile. That's unnecessary to say. How could I possibly forget my wife and child? My face flushed, a bit embarrassed. I had imagined countless times the first words he would say when we reunited, but I never expected it would be a repetition of Aunt Shu's mind-washing words from years ago. Brother Ling, don't tease me anymore. But deep inside, I felt a surge of joy he remembered. Aunt Shu smiled brightly and handed the luggage to Gui Lin, signaling me to get in the car. Gui Lin and I sat in the back seat while Aunt Shu shared stories from our childhood. She said that when I was little, I was like a little tail that followed him around, and whenever I was scolded, I would hide behind him to seek comfort. When I misbehaved and was afraid of getting a beating from my mother, I would cling to him tightly and not let go. When he went to school, I would cry and refuse to be separated from him. Aunt Shu spoke passionately, vividly as though she were reliving it. Without thinking, I turned to look at Gui Lin, and as soon as our eyes met, I immediately turned away. Both of us felt awkward and simultaneously chose silence. Anyway, when we were kids, you were the one who clung to him the most. Aunt Shu was right. In the blink of an eye, we had all grown up. Aunt Shu sighed, indeed, we've all grown up. I glanced at Gui Lin. This was also a statement meant for him. At that moment, the car window was cracked open. Gui Lin looked outside, and the soft breeze brushed past, making his hair sway gently. The sunlight shining down made his long, slightly curved eyelashes even more defined. His narrow, almond-shaped eyes were bright yet deep. He seemed even more handsome now, no longer carrying the childish features of his younger days. The lines of his face had become sharper, more defined. Since childhood, he had matured more than his peers, and now he appeared even more composed. Just as I was lost in thought, staring at him, he seemed to sense my gaze. Is there something on my face? He asked. Yeah, there's a whole lot of handsomeness, I replied. Oh, nothing. I just thought I saw a crow flying by outside, I blurted out a classic lie, impressed with myself. Afraid that he might catch on to my guilt, I quickly turned my head towards the window to avoid his gaze. The atmosphere became quiet for a moment, and I secretly tilted my head to glance at Gui Lin. He had returned to his previous position, and I could just see the corners of his lips twitching upward. Looking at the room that Chu had arranged for me, my heart suddenly felt unusually warm. Gui Lin was pushing my luggage behind me. I'll leave your luggage here. I snapped out of my thoughts and hurriedly took the suitcase from his hands, feeling a little embarrassed. Thank you. The corner of Gui Lin's mouth twitched slightly. Not bad, you're behaving well. What do you mean? Was I really that naughty when I was little? Before I could retort, he spoke again. I'm right across from you. Across from me? It seems so. His house has 3 floors. Uncle Gui and Aunt Shu are on the 2nd floor, and there are 2 rooms on the 3rd floor. I'm in this room, so the room across must be yours. Being so close, does that mean I'll see you as soon as I open my door in the morning? Just thinking about it makes me excited. Brother Ling, if anything happens, can I come to you? No. Aw. Then why bother telling me you're across the hall? Just like when we were kids, saying one thing but meaning another. I blatantly ignored his answer, pretending as if he had agreed. Thanks, Brother Ling. Gui Lin chuckled helplessly, turned, and left the room, heading downstairs. Come down for lunch after you finish unpacking. I casually responded with an okay. At the dining table, I'd been hungry all morning. Looking at the table full of dishes I liked, my eyes couldn't help but light up. But to maintain my image as a proper young lady, I forced myself to control my eagerness, only picking the vegetables in front of me and chewing each bite slowly. Eat, don't be polite. Eat more. Aunt Shu noticed I hadn't taken much, thinking I couldn't handle it, and pushed the meat dish toward me. I quickly waved my hand. No need, Auntie. Vegetables have more nutrients, I'll just eat the vegetables. Aunt Shu looked at Gui Lin in surprise, as if seeking help. He seemed to catch the signal and put down his chopsticks. Looks like you've grown up, and your taste has changed. From now on, every meal will be vegetables, okay? My hand holding the chopsticks froze, and the corner of my mouth twitched. I was stunned. Could it be that from now on, I'll really only eat vegetables? Lin Ziru? Lin Ziru, you really are your own worst enemy. There's a whole table full of delicious dishes, and you choose to eat vegetables. If you don't fix this now, when will you ever? I immediately grabbed a piece of sweet and sour ribs and stuffed it into my mouth. Wow, this is so delicious, Aunt Shu. Can you teach me how to cook this dish? Aunt Shu laughed in satisfaction. All right, as long as you like it. She happily added more ribs to my bowl. Gui Lin, seeing this, completed his task and continued eating as usual. Phew, that was close. I almost ended up eating vegetarian food to ward off bad luck. I thought you two living under the same roof, seeing each other day and night, would eventually lead to some progress. But who would have guessed that all that happened was a few morning greetings, a bit of conversation during meals, and some TV watching when you were free. And before I knew it, it was already the day to start school. First-year students have to go to school early to complete registration. Gui Lin was also forced to accompany me. The reason? Chu said I was directionally challenged, so he insisted on escorting me to ensure I got there safely. I didn't know what to expect before I left, but when I arrived, I was completely stunned. The prestigious campus is indeed different. If no one were leading the way, I'd probably lose my direction. But it seems this isn't the main point. I obediently followed behind Gui Lin, immediately feeling countless gazes fixed on him. Isn't that Senior Gui Lin? So tall, so handsome, oh my. Not only is he an outstanding mathematics student, but he also won first place in the national math competition. His scholarships are countless. I'm finally seeing him in person. I've heard that the senior is cold and speaks little if he's not taking an exam, he's studying. But who is the girl walking behind him? A new student? I've never heard of him having a sister. A group of female students gathered, whispering among themselves. Though they tried to restrain their excitement, I could still hear every word clearly. Already so many rivals this early in the semester? I pouted, quickened my pace, and intentionally walked closer to him, giving a soft snort. Guilin seemed to sense my emotions. "What's wrong?" I deliberately spoke in a sarcastic tone. I didn't expect Brother Ling to be this popular. If I hadn't come, I wouldn't have known. "I forgot," he replied nonchalantly. "I forgot." I gritted my teeth, suppressing my anger. It must be nice to be liked by so many people. Suddenly, he flicked my forehead, not hard, but unexpectedly. "What's going on in that little head of yours? Every day someone says something to you. Do you want me to give a lecture to each of them so they can focus on their studies?" Guilin added when he saw me frozen. "I'm not that free." I rubbed my forehead. The fire in my heart was suddenly extinguished. I turned my face away, unable to stop the corners of my mouth from curving up. "Oh," he walked me all the way to the classroom door before leaving. I picked a discreet spot to sit down. But before I could even settle in, a group of girls approached. "I saw the senior walk you to the classroom door just now. What's your relationship with Guilin? I've never heard of him getting this close to any girl before. I don't like people who always meddle in other people's business, but thinking about it, this is also a good opportunity to declare my ownership. Guilin and I have been childhood sweethearts." I said that and purposely paused for a moment, then continued. "We were betrothed to each other since we were little." As soon as I finished, the faces of the girls immediately darkened, filled with disappointment, and they quietly scattered. I didn't say this on purpose, these were their own questions. My goal had been achieved. I crossed my arms, calmly preparing to go to class. Even in university, I couldn't escape math. In the very first class, I listened, and my head spun, completely confused. And the grade for this subject would count toward the final assessment, so if I failed, it would affect my graduation later. What kind of karma have I created? Am I destined to be entangled with math in this life? Oh well, I'll just take it one step at a time. Finally, it was time to finish classes. The world was vast, and eating was the most important thing. After eating, I could figure out the rest. "Ziru, do you want to eat together? I heard the food in the school canteen is really good." Right after class, my desk mate enthusiastically invited me to join, but unfortunately, I already had someone I wanted to eat with. I waved my hand at her and smiled, saying, "Sorry, I have plans today, but we'll definitely go together next time." "Oh, are you going to meet your childhood sweetheart?" My desk mate looked at me with curiosity. I raised an eyebrow, didn't say anything, but just gestured, "That's right." I arrived at the canteen, and sure enough, I saw Guilin. I knew that at this time, he would definitely be here. He always stuck to his principle of having 3 meals on time. I randomly picked 2 dishes, exactly 2 meat dishes, and hurriedly sat down opposite him. "Brother Ling, from now on, let's eat together. Look, you eat alone every day, it must be really boring. Having someone to eat with would make the meal more enjoyable, right?" As I spoke, I stuffed a bite of rice into my mouth. Guilin didn't need to look to know it was me. He just calmly said, "Eat properly, don't talk while eating, you could choke." After saying that, he glanced at my tray of food. "Not eating vegetables today?" Without thinking, I blurted out, "What's the point of eating vegetables? They're hard to swallow, just leave them." Guilin didn't say anything. He simply picked up a piece of vegetable from his tray and placed it on mine. Meals should be balanced in nutrition. If I didn't know his eating habits so well, I would have suspected that he didn't want to eat and was intentionally pushing them onto my tray. Since I was young, I've always listened to my brother. Even now that I'm older, every time he speaks, I still feel an indescribable pressure and can't bring myself to speak back. I scrunched my face, furrowed my brows, and reluctantly chewed the piece of vegetables before swallowing it. If I chewed faster, my taste buds wouldn't register the flavor. From then on, eating with Guilin every day became an indispensable habit. As long as I didn't have any classes, I would immediately run to the math department, sometimes bringing him milk, sometimes snacks. Even though in the end, all those snacks would be eaten by me. Because he said, "Those are unhealthy snacks, they're only for you to handle on my behalf." All right, I admit it, I did it on purpose. I'd finish early, obediently sit next to him, and wait for him so we could go home together. He didn't object. As time passed, I gradually became familiar with the students in the math department. Every time I arrive, they can't help but tease me. "Are you here to find your brother Ling again?" I replied casually, "Yes, that's right, today as well." After class, I went to find Guilin to have lunch together, but I waited in the classroom for a long time and still didn't see him. Some senior students came back after finishing their meal and told me there's a competition coming up, so Guilin is probably in the research room. The research room is a place specifically for students preparing for the math competition. My first reaction was that he probably hadn't had time to eat yet. So, before heading to the research room, I stopped by the canteen to grab a sandwich to take with me. The research room was so quiet it felt almost eerie, like you'd need to be someone extraordinary to step inside. If it weren't for Guilin, I probably would never have dared to come here in my whole life. I was both excited and eager to find the familiar figure, but it seemed that I wasn't the only one there. Facing him was a girl with long hair that reached her waist, looking pure and lovely. The two of them were sitting across from each other, occasionally exchanging a few words. She smiled softly, and every gesture of hers exuded gentleness and elegance. I tightened my grip on the sandwich in my hand, a wave of bitterness rising in my chest. I admit, she looked very beautiful. I told myself that this was nothing, maybe they were just classmates working on an assignment together. After that, I regained my composure and boldly walked over to Guilin, sitting down next to him. He looked up, saw me, and instinctively moved over, making room for me to sit more comfortably. The girl opposite him furrowed her brows slightly, thinking I was there to start a conversation. "Excuse me, we're preparing for a competition right now, so we can't talk." I ignored her words and handed the sandwich to Guilin, deliberately acting a bit coquettish. "Brother Ling, why didn't you tell me you were coming here? I've been waiting forever." Guilin took the sandwich, hesitated for a moment, and then whispered, "I didn't mean to, I was in such a hurry that I forgot." The girl across from me finally realized that it seemed like I knew him, so she pursed her lips slightly and turned to him, asking, "Who is she? Why have I never seen her before?" I immediately spoke up first. "I'm Lindsay Rue, Brother Ling's childhood friend." I intentionally emphasized the last 4 words. "I just enrolled not long ago, so it's normal for you not to know me." She forced a laugh twice. "So you're a freshman, no wonder Ling has never mentioned you." "I've never heard of you either," I replied politely, and her expression stiffened. "Little sister, it seems like you're disturbing us while we're working. How about you leave first? It wouldn't be good if you affect Ling's performance in the competition." "Oh, calling him so intimately, huh? With Guilin's talent, do you think I could affect him? The only one likely to be affected here is you." She was using the green tea tactic to make it so that the green tea had no way out, which was exactly what she needed for the moment. I immediately took Guilin's arm, sat close to him, and gently asked, "Brother Ling, am I disturbing you by sitting here?" His ears turned slightly red, and he coughed softly twice before answering, "No." I smugly glanced at the girl, who had not yet given up. "Slightly impatient," she said. "But she's sitting so close to you." "It's fine, I'm used to it," Guilin casually interrupted. I felt triumphant, while her face turned so ugly it was indescribable. Actually, at that time only Su Shan was laughing. But there were only 2 people there. My voice trailed off. Guilin patiently explained. "Su Shan is your mentor's daughter. This time, during the competition, he told you guys to exchange experiences with each other." I muttered. "So that's it. It's not something the heavens just gave." "I already told you. It's just that the classmates are working on the same assignment." "What's that you're muttering?" Guilin ruffled my hair. "Huh? Nothing." I jumped up and ran upstairs. I didn't expect to blurt out something like that. "I thought she was here to steal you from me." I held myself back. I said it quietly. "You didn't hear, right? Are you afraid I'll be taken away?" He heard me after all. "I'm just saying, it's really bright today." We were inside the house, there was no sky. I pretended to look away, trying to change the subject. Guilin lowered his head and smiled helplessly, then walked past me, whispering, "Don't worry, I'm not so easily taken away." Lately, because of the competition, Guilin spent almost all his time in the research room. Ever since the Su Shan incident, even though I stayed with him late, she had nothing to complain about anymore. Finally, the competition ended. As expected, Guilin won first place. That day after class, I, as usual, got up the moment the bell rang and ran to find him so we could go home together, but just as I stood up, my desk mate pulled me back. "There's a social gathering tonight organized by some of the upperclassmen. Are you going?" "No. I'm not interested." She grabbed my hand. "Don't refuse so quickly. This gathering is also a welcome event for the new students to get to know each other. It's been almost 2 months since we entered the school, and they are only now organizing a welcome party. It sounds nice, but in reality, it's more like a matchmaking event." "I'm not going, I already like someone." She looked at me with sparkling eyes. "I heard there are some really handsome upperclassmen, aren't you curious?" I frowned and shot her a glance, preparing to leave. All right, I know in your heart it's only Senior Guilin, but the girls over there said that anyone who participates has to bring someone along. If not, they'll have to drink 3 penalty shots. Please help me out." 3 shots? Fine, I'll drink them." I thought to myself, but seeing the hopeful look on her face, I couldn't bring myself to refuse. Although she has been helping me take notes since the beginning of the school year, even covering for me whenever I was late, I still had some hesitation. Impatiently, she said, "All you need to do is sit there, don't say anything, just be part of the group. Once it's over, leave immediately." How about it? I was half skeptical. Really? Really? I guarantee it. I reluctantly agreed. But now, what I needed to figure out was how to tell Guilin that I would be coming home late tonight. To be honest, he definitely wouldn't agree. And if I kept it a secret and he found out I was going to a social gathering, he might even get mad. Could I not tell him? No, just the thought of it was terrifying. I had to come up with a reason that was convincing enough for him to believe. On the way, I kept hesitating. It took a lot of courage to finally move forward. But when I saw Guilin, my eyes instinctively avoided his. While he was tidying up his things, I seized the opportunity to speak softly. Brother Ling, what's wrong? He put down his things and looked at me. Why are you staring at me? I felt a little uneasy. It's nothing, nothing. It's not okay. If you don't say it now, it'll be too late. I took a deep breath, gathered my courage. I have something I want to say. I have something I want to say. We both spoke at the same time. You go first. You go first. Again, in unison. I quickly continued. Okay, you go first. Guilin looked at me intently. Tonight, I have a group meeting, so you'll probably have to go home by yourself. Is that okay? If not, I can postpone it. Before he could finish his sentence, I hurriedly interrupted. Okay, it's fine, I'm grown up now, I can go home by myself. Thank goodness. That meant I didn't have to lie anymore and could leave without worrying about being caught. Are you sure? Guilin confirmed. I tugged at his sleeve, smiling brightly. Seriously, I'm fine, don't worry about me. It seemed like he remembered something and asked again. That's right, what were you about to say earlier? It's nothing, doesn't matter. I waved my hand dismissively, feeling uneasy. Guilin nodded. Well, remember to text me when you get home. I confidently raised my hand and made a gesture, okay. To avoid being noticed, I waited for Guilin to leave for a while before heading to the bar to meet everyone. After calculating the time, I texted him, I've made it home. He immediately replied, okay. When I arrived, I noticed the place was packed. Boys and girls were sitting across from each other, clearly with the intention of dating. I was about to find a quiet corner where I wouldn't be noticed, but my seatmate immediately pulled me over and eagerly told me to sit next to her. So, I ended up sitting right in the middle, becoming the most noticeable person, and an uneasy feeling washed over me. A little while later, everyone began playing games. I played along to avoid feeling out of place. When it was time for introductions to get to know each other, I planned to find an excuse to go to the restroom. At that moment, a senior suddenly stood up, looked at me, and spoke. You're Lindsay Rue, right? I was momentarily stunned, then nodded slightly. He continued, everyone in our dorm knows you. I heard there's a very beautiful girl in the freshman class, and today I finally get to meet you. As expected, you're just as stunning as the rumors said. I forced a smile, trying to remain polite, but felt a little awkward. The conversation ended there, but who would have thought that the senior suddenly walked over to me holding a glass of fruit wine. Junior, let me buy you a drink, let's call it a way to get to know each other. Sorry. I instinctively stepped back, raising the glass of water in my hand. I'm only drinking water, but he wouldn't let it go. It's fine, just a fruit cocktail. You're not going to be a bit polite, are you? I started to feel irritated. You really don't drink? It's fine, just a little bit. He still wouldn't let up, continuing to pressure me. I lost my patience, stood up, and was about to grab the drink from his hand. At that moment, someone quickly moved in front of me, faster than I was, grabbing my senior's wrist and yanking the drink from his hand, then splashing it straight into his face before neatly placing the glass down on the table. Sorry, I got a bit carried away. They already said they're not drinking. Forcing it like that is just not fun. The voice was deep, carrying a slight magnetic tone, calm in delivery but full of authority. Wasn't that Lin? Even though I couldn't see his face, there was no mistaking that voice. People around us started murmuring, calling out Lin's name, and I became more certain. Oh my God, how did he end up here? I felt a chill run down my spine from the very beginning. Sure enough, I had sensed something was wrong. I immediately lowered my head, using my hair to cover my face as I tried to sneak away behind everyone. Please don't see me, I muttered under my breath while carefully trying to slip behind. Lindsay Rue, you're done for, aren't you? You're afraid of something, and here it is. When my full name was called out, I shuddered. It was too late to cry now. All I could do was obediently turn around and look at him. Are you still planning to run? Lin furrowed his brows, his voice colder than before. I stood still, like a statue, not daring to move, as he dragged me away from the scene. The night sky had already fallen, and the first hint of autumn's chill swept through the air. I trailed behind Lin, like a child who had made a big mistake. He didn't say anything. What's this? Are you really mad? Judging by his expression, I could tell for sure he was angry. But even though I'm angry, once I'm mad, don't ignore me after that. Explain. He suddenly spoke up. I was a bit startled, unable to react in time. Explain what? I lowered my head, not noticing that he had suddenly stopped. And then, thud. I bumped straight into his back. Lin sighed softly, turned around to look at me. His voice was still as indifferent as before. This is called going home. When you said going home, were you talking about attending a social event? I panicked, quickly waving my hands. No, it's not what you think. I didn't want to go at all. I only went with my desk mate just to make up the numbers. It wasn't anything else. Usually, he treats me quite well, so I agreed to help. But Lin didn't seem convinced. I rushed to explain even faster. I already told him that I like someone else. I only planned to stay for a little while and leave. I didn't expect her to show up. I didn't even get the chance to say it. I swallowed my words. I couldn't speak too quickly, or else all my thoughts would be exposed. I secretly glanced at him, avoiding his gaze. Lin hesitated for a moment. The person I liked was now out in the open, and I didn't want to hide it anymore. I took a step forward, looked at him seriously. Yes, the person I like is you. We stared at each other for a long time. Lin seemed a bit stunned. This was the first time I saw him looking so blank, and he actually looked quite cute. I couldn't help but laugh. I didn't expect him to respond right away, but at least now he knew my feelings. I had taken a step forward, but it seemed like this wasn't the main point, was it? Shouldn't you listen to my explanation first? How did we suddenly end up talking about something else? Well, never mind, the most important thing now is to calm him down. Seeing him slightly open his mouth as if about to say something, I immediately tugged at his sleeve, seizing the chance to apologize first. Brother Ling, I know I was wrong. I won't do it again next time. Lin suddenly stopped, as if he had just regained his composure. There won't be a next time. I immediately shook my head. There won't be a next time. I obediently smiled an apology. His expression softened, and he softly said, All right, let's go home. Then, he turned around and continued walking. Heh, I guess he's not angry anymore, right? I breathed a sigh of relief and happily ran to catch up with him. When we got home, Uncle Gui and Aunt Shu had already gone to bed, but the light in the living room was still on for us. I gently tiptoed to go upstairs, but suddenly felt a heaviness on my back. A moment later, someone rested their chin on my shoulder. A warm breath brushed against my ear, and I immediately stiffened. I turned my head and softly called out, "Brother Ling." I leaned in closer, noticing the scent of alcohol. Wait a minute, he had helped me block the alcohol earlier. He had been so clear-headed back then, I hadn't noticed a thing. Looks like he had been holding it in the whole way back. I used all my strength to pull Li Guilin into his room. He was so thin, but why was he so heavy? As a result, I stumbled and tossed him straight onto the bed. He furrowed his brows slightly but remained still. I panicked and ran over to check. Sorry, I didn't mean to." I slowly moved closer and waved my hand in front of his face. Seeing he didn't respond, a bold idea suddenly popped into my mind. I moved even closer, close enough to feel his breath. My fingers gently traced over his eyebrows, eyes, nose, lips, and then his throat. I mumbled, "Why are his eyelashes so long? Even when he's asleep, he still looks so handsome." I chuckled softly. But if I've already become a fan of this guy, then maybe, while he's unaware, it wouldn't be too bad to sneak a kiss, right? I grew nervous, my palms starting to sweat. After hesitating for a long while, I finally took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and gently placed a kiss on the corner of his mouth. Then, I immediately jumped up. I brought my hand to my face and pressed it tightly, my heart pounding rapidly. No, I have to run right away. But just as I turned, my wrist was grabbed tightly, I lost my balance and was pulled back down onto the bed. Before I could react, Gui Lin flipped over and pinned me down. I locked eyes with his deep, dreamy gaze. I swallowed nervously. "Lin, brother Ling, why are you awake?" He whispered, "Kiss me, then run. What if I'm still unconscious and you refuse to acknowledge it tomorrow? Is this guy pretending to be drunk, or is he actually drunk?" I immediately felt incredibly embarrassed, simply closing my eyes tightly, but turning my head to the side, avoiding him. Suddenly, a warm breath brushed past my ear, and Gui Lin's lips gently touched the edge of my ear, soft and tender. He whispered, "Rue, finally, I've waited for the day you'd grow up." After saying that, his lips slowly moved down, his breath quick and mixed with restraint. He gently bit me while trailing along my skin, slowly gliding across my neck. Until he found a suitable spot, he began kissing and sucking softly. I clenched his sleeve tightly, my whole body numb, the tension I felt earlier immediately engulfed by a wave of intense heat, making me melt into him, drained of all strength. His movements were slow, just enough for me to gradually adapt and accept. Just when I thought something would definitely happen tonight, I ended up falling asleep. Yes, that's right. He fell asleep too. Was he so exhausted that he just passed out? All this effort to stay awake, just to kiss me a little? Brother Ling Gui Lin, wake up. Early in the morning, I hadn't fully woken up when I heard Aunt Shu knocking on the door, shouting in panic. Gui Lin slowly opened his eyes, turned his head to look at me, furrowing his brow with a puzzled expression. I was so tired last night that I didn't even know when I fell asleep. I gave a wry smile. "Good morning." "Good morning, Brother Ling." He slightly parted his lips, seemingly wanting to say something but stopped himself. Just as we were still gazing at each other, the door was suddenly thrown open. Aunt Shu stormed in, speaking loudly. "Brother Ling, something's wrong, we can't find Ruru anywhere." Before she could finish her sentence, her gaze fell on me and Gui Lin. The three of us exchanged looks, and then they simultaneously looked down at my neck. That's when I reacted, quickly raising my hand to cover it. But it was too late. The marks from last night were unmistakable. Aunt Shu seemed to understand something, glaring at Guilin with anger. Guilin, come out here, now. The way she looked at us made it seem like we had actually done something, but we hadn't done anything at all. Brother, please, go ahead. I tidied myself up and got ready to go downstairs for breakfast. As I passed by the second floor, I suddenly heard Aunt Shu and Guilin's voices coming from the room. On instinct, I took a step back. Curiosity made me quietly lean against the wall, trying to listen carefully. Are you serious? It was a rare moment when I heard Chu ask him like that. He paused for a moment and then chuckled softly. Didn't Mom already consider her as a daughter-in-law long ago? That's right, Mom had made up her mind a long time ago. But what about you? If you don't like her, it doesn't matter how much Mom likes her. I'm just afraid Ruru might suffer. I couldn't help but laugh. What do you mean suffering, Mom? Thinking back to last night, I even secretly kissed him. How could I be suffering? Before I could finish enjoying the moment, Guilin's voice rang out. Who says I don't like her? Aunt Shu is clearly a person, and then his eyes lit up. What I mean is, I'm serious. Don't worry, Mom, your daughter-in-law is still your daughter-in-law, no one can take her away. He looked directly into her eyes, his tone firm, I'm serious. Aunt Shu, upon hearing this, smiled brightly and left contentedly. I stood there, feeling a sudden flutter in my heart. On the way back to school, the atmosphere in the car was unusually silent. Guilin occasionally glanced at me. I know you're looking, but I'm afraid if you bring up what happened last night, about me kissing you secretly, what if you want to settle the score with me? So, I pretended to be calm, as if nothing had happened. In the end, he couldn't hold back. I'm sorry about your neck. I was stunned. Huh? Oh, about that? It's fine, you were drunk. I don't blame you. I was very sober at that time. His voice was barely audible, so soft that it was drowned out by the music in the car, making it hard for me to hear. I scratched my head, choosing not to ask again, as long as he didn't bring up the whole kissing incident. That would be just fine. The car stopped in front of the school gate. Just before I got out of the car, Guilin suddenly called me back. Let me take my jacket and put it on you, wear it so you don't get cold. It wasn't exactly cold yet, but winter was coming. I obediently put it on. His jacket was so big that it could cover my whole body. It was really warm. Only later did I realize, thanks to this jacket, the marks on my neck were completely hidden. Men are so sly. Sure enough, just a few days after returning to school, I couldn't escape trouble. It was Su Shan again. Wasn't the competition over? Why was she still haunting me like a ghost? I was planning to find Guilin for lunch, but unexpectedly, she showed up right at that moment. Was it intentional? Su Shan spoke first. Let's talk for a moment. Her gaze was still as arrogant as before. I crossed my arms, feeling impatient. Are we really that close? I don't think there's anything for us to discuss. I'm honestly too lazy to argue. Besides, I'm really hungry and don't have time to deal with her. So, I decided to ignore her and walk around. But Su Shan raised her voice to stop me. Guilin won't like you. Stop clinging to him. I couldn't help but laugh. May I ask, what does it matter to you whether Guilin likes me or not? If I stop clinging to him, does that mean he'll like you instead? My gaze made Su Shan feel somewhat embarrassed, but she still refused to give up. She truly was naive. He and I are of the same kind. I can help him, but what can you do to help? Don't think he really likes you, it's just a joke. I froze, not knowing what to say. Her words didn't carry much weight, but they were really annoying. I angrily glared at her. Su Shan took a step back, seemingly losing her composure. Suddenly, she raised her hand, intending to push me. With my reflexes, avoiding it would be a piece of cake. But then I saw Guilin walking towards us from a distance. The moment Su Shan swung her hand down, I seized the opportunity to fall to the ground. Bang! Oh my, that fall was so hard. It really hurts. Guilin's footsteps suddenly quickened, his face darkened. A second later, he grabbed Su Shan's wrist and shoved her backwards. You've gone too far. I fought back tears, my voice choked. Brother Ling, I don't know what I did wrong. She keeps trying to bully me. Su Shan panicked, hurriedly trying to explain. No, it wasn't me, she fell on her own. Suddenly, I felt weightless. Guilin swept me up in his arms, his eyes filled with disdain as he looked at Su Shan. Who do you think you are? Ru is my fiancée. You have no right to make decisions for me. Before leaving, he coldly left a parting remark. The only person I like is her, and it will always be her. Being carried by Guilin all the way home was honestly a bit embarrassing. I kept insisting I was fine, but he stubbornly insisted on taking time off for me and bringing me home. I lost out on the sweet and sour ribs at the canteen today, all because I was distracted. When I got home, Guilin gently laid me down on the sofa, told me to rest for a while, and then turned to head to the kitchen. I lowered my head, and suddenly my stomach growled. I wasn't injured, so I couldn't just sit still. So, I quietly snuck into the kitchen and saw his back as he was cooking. On the stove was the sweet and sour ribs I love the most. Men who can cook are incredibly attractive, how could I possibly resist this? I slowly walked over, wrapped my arms around his waist from behind, pressing against him. The warmth and sense of safety were overwhelming. Guilin slightly bent down, pausing his movements. Why don't you rest? Are you really okay? I felt a bit guilty and quickly let go of him, forcing a smile. What could possibly happen to me? She still has a little strength left. He squinted at me. Caught red-handed, huh? Guess I can't hide it anymore, I had no choice but to admit honestly. All right, I did it on purpose. Who told her to say you don't like me, to say you're criticizing me for being small, for being childish? Guilin suddenly lifted me up and placed me on the table. My legs naturally wrapped around his waist. The position was already too suggestive. Did she say that, and you believe it? Of course not, I immediately denied it. I just simply find her annoying. An idea flashed in my mind. Slowly, I wrapped my arms around his neck, my eyes sparkling as I leaned in a little closer. Then Brother Ling, just admit it, you like me, don't you? His arms tightened around my waist, and then he looked directly into my eyes, without a hint of hesitation. Yeah, I admit it. His lips quickly pressed down, bringing with them a warm breath. His tongue skillfully parted my teeth, pulling me into a deep, possessive kiss. It was as if all the years of restraint had suddenly exploded in this moment. I was kissed to the point where my entire body went numb, my mind spinning. Instinctively, I responded to him. I don't know how much time passed, only that when I could no longer breathe, Guilin finally let me go. He softly spoke, his voice carrying a hint of a smile. This is the second time we've kissed. I was still dazed, about to argue, when something suddenly crossed my mind. Damn it, this guy remembers that I kissed him sneakily. My face instantly flushed red, so embarrassed that I buried myself into his neck. Guilin chuckled softly, his gaze full of affection. He held me tight, lifting me up like a teddy bear, and headed toward the bedroom. Hey, I haven't eaten yet. I struggled, but his arms were locked too tightly around me, and I couldn't escape. You can eat later. He leaned down and kissed me again. Inside, my heart screamed in pain. What about your sweet and sour taste? After that, from that day on, Guilin and I were officially together. Aunt Shu and Uncle Gui looked at the two of us with satisfied eyes, smiling gently. See, a wife raised from childhood is always the best match. No matter how you look at it, you two are made for each other. When winter break came, Guilin and I went back home. Not long after, Aunt Shu and Uncle Gui followed with their luggage, saying that the two families should celebrate the new year together. When my parents found out that Guilin and I were in a relationship, they were ecstatic. They kept saying that a child from the same family was destined to stay together, and even joked about how the best friends were marrying off their children to each other. It made so much sense. My parents kept rambling on, and they even told Guilin to be patient with me, since I was quite stubborn, hoping that he would take care of me and be more understanding. But Guilin calmly responded, she's been spoiled since she was little. I raised her myself, so I know her best. After graduating from college, Guilin started his own small company. He could have easily slept in every morning, but in order to take me to school every day, he still woke up an hour earlier and supervised me during breakfast. He had promised that once I graduated from university, we would get married immediately. And he truly kept that promise. 1 week before my graduation, Guilin began acting strangely. Sure enough, right after the graduation ceremony, just after we finished taking the commemorative photos, I saw him standing there holding a bouquet of flowers, waiting for me. I knew right away that he was going to propose. Even though I had guessed it, I still cried uncontrollably, even doubting that he had chosen such a public place on purpose, so I wouldn't dare refuse. The wedding went smoothly. I had thought I would cry so much that my makeup would be ruined, but to my surprise, it was Guilin who shed tears. It was the first time in my life that I saw his eyes red. After reading the vows, he held me tight, for a long time, and there was only one thing. After the wedding banquet ended, my mother told me that from now on, I had to follow my husband home. Immediately, I hugged my mother and cried, reluctant to part. As a result, Guilin calmly said, the two houses are right next to each other, it's only a 2-minute walk. This guy really is a master at ruining the atmosphere. On our wedding night, Guilin and I changed into our pajamas and crawled under the blanket together. He held me in his arms, and I leaned on his shoulder as we watched our wedding vlog again. Suddenly, everything felt so unbelievable. Time had passed by so quickly. Looking at the man beside me, I felt an immense sense of happiness. Guilin looked at me with a gentle gaze, then leaned close to my ear and whispered, I love you. I didn't answer, instead responding with my actions. I kissed him first, but he immediately tightened his embrace, pulling me into a deeper kiss. His hands gently caressed my waist, slowly sliding down. Our clothes gradually fell to the floor, and our 10 fingers intertwined, gripping each other so tightly it felt like we were becoming one. His eyes were filled with love and longing. I could also feel the happiness and contentment. Afterward, we held each other tightly, listening to the rhythm of our hearts and breaths. In that moment, the world seemed strangely beautiful, as if we were the two happiest people on Earth. Thank you for listening to the story on Luffy Anime. If you liked the story on TH, don't forget to subscribe to catch the next episodes.